Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. Long time no see. Today I want to talk to you about the movie Old. This is a movie that I saw. How long has it been out? I saw it like the second week it came out, so I've seen it a little while ago. It has been a little bit of time, so forgive me if my memory of this movie is a little inaccurate, but this is what I remember and recall, how I think about it. I like to give myself some time to think about things before I talk about them to people. And I sometimes like to rewatch or replay the item I'm talking about just because I want to actually sound like I know what I'm talking about. I'm going to butcher this director's name. So I'm just going to call him Night because you know who I'm talking about, M. Night Shyamalan or something. I don't want to say it wrong like I just did. So I'm just going to call him Night. It's not one of his best works. I was so intrigued by the idea of this situation where they're on this beach and they rapidly become older to the point where they go through all their life stages and within a day they are dying of old age. I was curious to see how this was happening and why it was happening and what takes place. If you haven't seen it and you don't plan on seeing it, or if you want to see it, just know that I do have some minor spoilers in this. It's not anything huge, but it is spoilers, so you've been warned. Spoilers will start in 3, 2, 1. Spoils, okay. So it's about this family who, they're struggling, and we don't really know that until we hear them like arguing back and forth. It's a mom, a dad, and 2 children, and they're going on this vacation. And they mention how this was a last-minute vacation, and they were lucky to get this opportunity to go because this is a very expensive island to go, and somehow they like won the free trip or something. And it didn't seem suspicious enough of that, but they basically won a free trip to this place. And you find out that the mom has a tumor of some sort that she needs to be surgically removed, and she's working up to talking to the children about it. The father and the mother are planning on getting divorced, so this is basically their last family outing. They're trying to give their kids one last outing without them being separated. Which I can kind of see that if it's in real life. If it's not a toxic last trip, that's a great memory. However, I feel like that could be confusing to their kids as well. So that's something else, never mind. So they meet these other people at the resort. One of the kids befriends one of the owner's kids, and they're playing and stuff. The children, I'm trying to be nice, they're weird. I'm trying to be nice. They're odd. There's something different with the son. They don't say what it is, but I'm assuming he's on a spectrum of autism of some sort. And the daughter's a little different. Everybody in this movie is different. Like, they just don't make sense to me. Like, the way they act just doesn't make sense to me, I guess. Their mannerisms are very forced and strange, and it just doesn't seem like they're a real family. It feels like we just put 4 people together and, hey, this is your new mom, and hey, this is your new brother or son, and pretend you love each other. That's what it kind of felt like, but that also felt like that with other people too. Like, there was a husband and wife, and if you've seen it or you're going to go see it, you know who I'm talking about because it's the wife that has seizures. They're there, but they seem very factual towards each other, very businesslike, which I do know some people who are married that are just like that. So, no hate, you live how you want to live, but their relationship didn't feel very loving and close to me. It seemed unrealistic. And then there's like this husband and wife and their mother-in-law and their daughter that go on this trip as well. And you find out all these people have basically been invited to go to this island for free. Sorry, my arm's getting tired. You keep seeing my hand. Sorry about that. What's that like? So they all are convinced, all these people at one time are convinced to go and, well, not at the same time. The family of 4 with the husband and wife that have the seizures, the wife has the seizures, they're all convinced to go to this private island that they have to be driven to for relaxation, because they say, well, this place is too crowded, you should go to this place. And there's the tour guide, which is the director. It's Mr. Knight. He is in all of his movies. So if you've watched, like, Signs, if you've watched The Sixth Sense, if you've watched Split, he's in them. I don't recall where exactly he's in Split, but I'm pretty sure he's in it somewhere. He's always working himself in the movie somehow. So he drives them to this private island, and he gives them, like, this is when they should have been, like, questioning things, because he gives them this huge basket of food. They're only going to be there for a few hours, but he gives them this humongous basket of food like they're not coming back. Like, they're going to be there for a while. And no one really questions that. They're like, well, it's not a lot of, they'd basically say, that's quite a bit of food. And the driver says, well, the kids are kids. They'll be hungry because they're growing like crazy. And they say, oh, yeah, that's right. And they drop it. And I'm like, maybe it's just the irony that I know that this island is not normal. But I would be questioning, it's like, why are you giving us months worth of food? Because this is suggesting we're going to be here for a lot longer than we want to be. They get there, there's a man on the beach, supposedly he's some famous rapper or music artist. I don't know who he was. I don't recognize him, but that's not saying much. So maybe he was very famous, it was a big deal this guy was in the movie. I don't know. But the daughter seemed to know who they were. So he's been there. He's not really talking about the fact that he's been there for a while. He's not talking about the fact that his girlfriend or the lady he was with left hours ago and didn't come back. He's not talking much about that, which I think that if I was stuck on this island, and oh, by the way, they're supposed to call the hotel when they're ready to come home, but their phones don't work now, so they can't get help, right? So this guy, if I was him, I'd be like, help, or like, go back and go get the driver because I want to leave. This is ridiculous. I don't want to be here anymore. He didn't say anything. He's just like sleeping in the background like it's no big deal. Maybe he hadn't been there long, but I got the impression he'd been there for a while. So then the other family shows up, and they're like asking him, can you help us carry our stuff? And the Knight says, no, I can't. I have to get back. I could be wrong. Maybe they all traveled in together. I don't remember. I feel like they came in separately. And he says, no, I can't help you. I can't go farther than the gate. This is where I have to go so I can go get other people. And he's like, okay, whatever. So they have a humongous basket of food. And they come in, and they're very high maintenance. The wife is very particular about her looks. We saw them briefly at the hotel, and she was like that. So she's just more magnified now that she's there. And there's the mother-in-law, there's the husband, and then there's her, like, 6-year-old daughter. And the little boy and the little girl are the same age, or close to it. And so they become friends, and whatever. So it eventually happens that they find a dead body on the beach. And it ends up being the girl that the rapper was with. And he says, I didn't hurt her. All I remember is she went swimming, and then she's gone, and I haven't seen her since, and now she's here. And, of course, they're all saying he killed her, and they're all being suspicious about him. Time goes on. They're trying to figure out a murder mystery. And the reactions to it, though, are not the same as I would think they should have been. In real life, if you're on the beach and you see a dead body, I don't think your next reaction would be cover them with a blanket and keep on having a good day on the beach. Like, I don't remember if they tried to call 911 or tried to call the hotel, but I don't feel like there was a lot of effort in that. I think that might have been when one of them tried to leave to go get help and discovered that they couldn't leave. It's like this cave canyon thing they have to go through to get to the other side of the beach where they were dropped off. They didn't have the ability to call them because their phones didn't work, and the further you got into it, the worse your head hurt, and you eventually black out and you end up back onto the sandy shore. So it's weird whatever's going on. So they're fighting back and forth. They think the rapper killed them, and the husband that has the wife and the child, he's slowly starting to lose his mind. The entire movie, I kept trying to figure out what was wrong with him. The only thing I could think of is he had early onset, I wanted to say Alzheimer's, but he acted more like dementia, like the more later versions of Alzheimer's, it went into dementia. The way he was acting, like he was very confused, he was being very violent, he convinced himself that other people were threatening to hurt him when they weren't, especially the guy that they found on the beach that they think killed his girlfriend or whoever she was. He started acting out, and the wife did mention, well, we're on this trip, because they were trying to figure out what they all had in common. Why would they all be invited to this free trip? Why would they take them all to this island? Because something is clearly weird and going wrong, especially when they went to check on the dead body, I guess for evidence. I don't know why. And they've discovered that she's disintegrated down to bones. So she's gone through the entire decomposition process in like 10 minutes. So they're trying to figure out, what does that mean? And so they're trying to figure out what they all have in common, and they really couldn't come up with anything. They didn't really try hard either. But the wife did mention, yeah, he's been having trouble at work. He's a doctor, but we're taking a step back because there's been some problems. And they're not really thinking he can practice anymore, and he shuts her off, and he says, we can't tell them that. They'll think that something's wrong with me, which there was. So then we find out that the lady that has the seizures, they gave her some medication because she did have a seizure at breakfast that morning, and they showed that, and she said, because they said, are you feeling okay to even be here? Because I think they went with them. When they went with them in the beginning, they said, do you feel good enough to go? You just had a seizure. And she says, oh yeah, I took some medication that they gave me, and it's working pretty good. I'm like, you took medication that a hotel gave you. She didn't even say it was like a hotel doctor. She just said a hotel. And like the husband's a nurse, and he says, oh yeah, she's a psychologist. So she's trying to do all these like psychotherapy sessions with everybody. She's the one that's facilitating, like, okay, let's figure out what's all similar to us, because that's why we're all here. And he's like he's like the nurse, and he's like, she has grand mal seizures daily. And so basically he made it sound like she was debilitated with these seizures, but the entire movie, she's fine. And she's like, oh yeah, I took these meds from the hotel, and I feel better. I'm like, okay. I'm like, red flag 54. That's number 54 of red flags that we have on this trip. The hotel's medicating you for your neurological disorder. And we start aging. Like, we're slowly getting older. The mother-in-law starts getting very ill. And the husband, who's the doctor, he's getting a little bit more belligerent. He's getting very paranoid about everything. And the mother-in-law starts getting ill, and she ends up dying, like, of old age. It was like she went downhill so fast, and they finally figured out, like, she just died of old age. No one was upset. Like, they were like, oh my gosh, children, don't look at the dead body. They were upset about that, but son didn't care his mom died. Now, this is the same son that I argue was showing symptoms of dementia, so he might have not understood. But also, they weren't genuine reactions. Like, he knew who his mom was. He wasn't very concerned that she was ill, though, because she did start complaining, like, her chest hurt, she didn't feel well. And the husband was more interested in getting in an argument with the rapper on the beach. But she dies. And no one's reactions, I feel like, was appropriate towards that. It's like, oh, mom died. Okay. I'd be hysterical. But they're like, oh, darn. Okay. And they just move on, like, whatever. And the wife of the doctor, the high maintenance wife, she keeps complaining that she doesn't have her calcium pills. And apparently she's, like, obsessed with getting, like, a humped back. And she's very big into her looks, and she has a high calcium deficiency, and that's something she talks about at the hotel. So that's, if you're not seeing the theme, it's basically everyone on the beach has something wrong with them. Everybody, the theme that they finally figured out is we're all sick. I don't even know if they come up with that themselves, but it's made clear to the viewer that they're all medically sick. I think that's something that we only determine. Not sure. Sorry, I was reading a text message. Then the husband gets in a fight. The doctor's getting in a fight with the rap artist. Oh my gosh. They're fighting, and that's a constant thing. Like, it gets annoying because the doctor's so paranoid that the rap artist is going to kill them all because he thinks that he killed the lady on the beach. So the husband that is married to the psychologist who has seizures, he decides he's going to swim for help. He's going to swim from one end of the beach to wherever to go get help, because they see on a mountain there's like this glint of reflection and on top of mountain. So he's like, if I can swim over there and I can climb the mountain, I can go get help. Whatever. And they said, okay, you can try it. And so he swims, and we never see him again. Well, we do see him again later, but he's dead. So it's kind of like the barrier to the canyon area to get on and off of the beach. This barrier is also in the water, and they black out, and he drowns. Basically, they find him later. The kids are very hungry. They're going through the food like crazy, which that's why they give you so much food. The kids are rapidly growing, so they're like having a humongous growth spurt. And if you've ever had a growth spurt or seen a kid that has had one, they like to eat a lot. They're very active. That's what the kids are doing. They're just eating like crazy. The kids are growing out of their clothing to the point where they're only able to be wrapped up in blankets because they have to be naked, or they have to wear their parents' leftover swimsuits because they can't fit in their clothes anymore. And they're slowly becoming adults. And at one point, the 2 6-year-olds who now look 18, I don't know, they get left alone in a tent, and it's implied that they have sex. It's implied because she gets pregnant. I don't know how the 6-year-olds knew about that. They said something about it was naturally something that came to their mind. But no, it just was very weird. And I felt like that was a forced situation just because, like, why would you do that? And he says, I don't know, I just felt like that's what we were supposed to do. Whatever. So she's pregnant, and she is rapidly going through months of pregnancy. And at the same time, the mother of the original mother in the story, she gets sick, and her tumor is growing and growing and growing. And it's so huge, so that the surgeon doctor, who's losing his mind, has to do an emergency surgery for her. And every time he would cut her abdomen open to take the tumor out, her skin would automatically heal. So it was like years later, like the scar would be there, and they're like, that scar looks like it's been there for years. So they had to like force her abdomen open and keep it open because it kept trying to shut down. It's weird. So the girl has the baby, and the baby dies because the baby couldn't survive in that acceleration rate, I guess. That's what they say. The baby must not have been able to survive the rapid cell growth, which I guess makes sense, but it also doesn't make sense because that means the baby should have developed very quickly, and so the baby should have been perfectly fine. I don't know. I think they just didn't want to have a baby involved as well, because then what do they do with the baby? The mother of the girl, so the one with the calcium deficiency, she eventually gets deformed. Like, her skin, her joints are like this, and like her back's all humped up because she doesn't take her calcium pills. And so she just basically hides in the cavern and says, "Don't look at me, I'm ugly." And I think they end up killing her because she goes crazy because she doesn't want them to look at her. The kids. I don't know. The doctor, I can't remember. I feel like they killed him too because he was just losing his mind. He was trying to lure people out so he could kill them because he was convinced that everyone was out to get him. And then the little girl that had the baby, she tried to climb up to the top of the mountain, and she lost her ability to stay conscious. She blacked out, and she fell, and she died. So basically, everyone's dead except the mom, the dad, the boy, and the girl. And the boy and the girl are adults now. They still act like their ages, so they still act like a 6-year-old and 12-year-old, whatever she was. They still have that mentality, but their bodies are big. So that's why I questioned why they had implied that the little boy and little girl had sex, because their mentality is still their 6. So that was weird to me. I felt like there was a lot wrong with that. So they're there and they're just sitting on the beach, and the husband and the wife, they basically decide, we're dying here. There's no way out of here. And that they basically accepted that. And it was interesting. I did appreciate that they did make it look and seem like they were getting older, because the father's eyesight started to go away, and he started not being able to see, and he couldn't see anything. And the wife's hearing was going away, and she only had one half-decent ear, the other one was completely deaf. So I did appreciate that they were being realistic, because that was something that I was looking for. It's like, okay, if they're rapidly getting older, then other things should stop being as good. Other things should start deteriorating. Like, their health was obviously deteriorating, but like their hearing and their ability to speak, their ability to see. So they actually did do that, which I thought that was good. So basically, the 2 kids just sit on the beach with their parents while they die, and and this is nighttime now, so it's only been like an afternoon to the nighttime, and both the parents die within minutes of each other. So it's just the boy and the girl on the beach, and they are at least in their 50s, I think, by the time the movie's over. And the one lady, she is, if you've ever seen Matilda, she is the teacher. She's Miss Honey. And that's all I got out of that. The rest of the movie, I was just like, that's Miss Honey. So for me, the movie was, I was distracted because of that. So they decide they're going to go swimming. And I mentioned earlier the boy had a friend of a little boy that was on the hotel staff, and they were friends, and they would send coded messages to each other. And the last code message he got, he decoded, and it says, "My uncle, who was running the beach and encouraged them to go to this side of the beach, doesn't like the coral." And so they decide they're going to swim to the coral. And they're swimming, and they almost drowned. And the observer, which was the reflection they were seeing in the top of the mountain, was the director. And he says, exhibits 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 have died. The last 2 have drowned. And he takes all of his information back to this weird-looking lab where they're analyzing everything. And, like, they're saying, okay, this went this way, and this happened, and this person survived for 3 hours, and this person survived for 6, and this is how they died. And when they finally revealed that what they were doing was they were testing medical supplies and medical, like, medicines to see how they would help somebody with the disorder. So they said, They were so proud because the lady that had seizures, she technically survived. She survived 4 hours on the beach without having a seizure, because she eventually just died of having a seizure, and they couldn't stop it. And they said she survived 4 hours, which in the time frame they were actually on, like, the beach, human normal time 4 hours, but on that beach it was like 8 years. And they said she survived 8 years without a seizure with just one dosage of our medicine. That seemed off to me. It didn't seem accurate, but whatever, it's a movie. So that was like their biggest findings. That was their biggest thing that they did through the program, was they developed a medication for seizures, and they were able to support their findings off of this one lady, and that was what was able to get them out of doing all these years and years of testing. And that was their defense, was this saved us years of testing on people. Now we've sacrificed one to save the many. And so you find out that was what they were trying to do. And that's when you find out that the doctor who to this day, I feel like he had dementia, guys. They said it was schizophrenia, which I could buy, but with, like, the paranoia and things, but it seemed, because, like, dementia and paranoia go together a little bit too. So I would have picked a different disease for him. It doesn't matter. Whatever. Because you can develop schizophrenia later in life. So that was making sense, but I don't know. Wasn't my decision. And then you found out, like, the lady had a tumor, which we already knew. Husband, I don't remember him having any problems. And, like, the lady with the calcium, the lack of calcium pills, they were able to see how long she survived without the medications and contorting her body, because she was like a pretzel when they were done with her. So they were able to see this is what happens after so long of not taking your medications for calcium deficiency. Weird movie. I normally like this director's work. I normally really like what he does. I love the ideas of it. Signs and Sixth Sense are very good movies, and I watch them a lot, especially Signs, because I'm a Joaquin Phoenix and Mel Gibson fan too. So that one's a really close one to my heart. Split was horrible. Don't talk to me about Split, because that is just a horrible, horrible version of what dissociative identity disorder looks like, and it was incorrect. So I don't like that movie. So there's an Avatar: The Last Airbender. We all know that sucked. We all know that sucked. There's a reason why they didn't make any more. Supposedly they're making more with a different director, but I'll believe when I see it. So he has hits and he misses. Village was really good. I liked Village, but once again, I'm a Joaquin Phoenix fan. I liked the idea of it. So for me, that was good. Old wasn't my favorite. It was very strange. I didn't like the acting. The acting was very odd. There was times when people were speaking. I do have hearing issues a little bit, so that might just be on me, but they would speak sometimes and I would have no clue what they're saying, because they had accents that were odd. They had just mannerisms and the way they were speaking. They were speaking too fast or so slow or too low. I couldn't figure out what they were saying sometimes. So that was frustrating. And like I said, their connections of their emotions was just so weird. It just didn't make sense. In the end, the two kids get justice because they... excuse me. In the end, they get justice because they end up being alive, and they're able to prove who they are, and they were the 6-year-old and 10-year-old that came on the beach originally, and what the hotel's actually doing. And so they were able to get police involved. I don't know how you would prove that, other than take them to the beach, but then that also means that the people that go to the beach to get the bodies and get the evidence wouldn't be able to get off the beach. And the science of the beach doesn't make sense, and they never explain that. A lot of holes. A lot of holes, which can either hurt you or help you. And they help you in the middle of it and during it, because you don't have to explain it. But then after you sit for a few weeks after you watch it, like me, and you're trying to talk about it, you're like, oh, that doesn't make sense. Or if they explained it, they didn't explain it well, because I don't remember. I would wait to see this when it comes out on DVD and you can rent it. that's just me. This is not something I would pay for a full family to go see at a theater. I would maybe go to Redbox if you had that opportunity. If you wanted to see it, it's a Redbox rental, not a let's go to the theaters or go to the drive-in. I've seen better. But that's just my personal thoughts. Doesn't mean anything. I still like Knight's work. I feel like he does very original things. I don't know how well he did in the box office. I know that like Glass was his most recent, other than this one, and it didn't do so well, from what I remember. I don't know. I want him to do well because I like him. I enjoy his work, like Sixth Sense and Signs, but this wasn't good. I think One and Done is good enough for this one, but I would wait till Redbox gets it out for you, so you can see it that way and be in the comfort of your own home and pause it, go back, try to figure things out if you want, or you can take like 15 million bathroom breaks and it doesn't really matter. I don't know. Just my thoughts on it. It's worth seeing, but in the comfort of your own home. Don't pay the big bucks to go see in the theater. Hope you have a great day, guys. My next movie is probably going to be Respect, so we'll see what I think about that one. Hope you have a great day. Bye!